Your key turns in the driver's door, but the door will not open. Or the key goes in and will not turn at all. Or you press the fob and hear one soft click from inside the panel and nothing moves. It is 12 degrees, you are late, and there is a bar of graphite in the pencil on your kitchen counter that everybody's father used to keep for exactly this. Here is what is true and what is not. Graphite is real. It is a dry lubricant. It has been the correct thing for a lock since before either of us was born, and it still is, for the right lock. Powdered graphite in a padlock or a house deadbolt is the best $4 you will ever spend. But on the door of a modern car, the cylinder is almost never what failed. And if you shave a pencil into that keyway on top of 40,000 miles of factory grease, you make a black paste, and that paste is what jams the wafers for good. That door is not frozen at the lock. It is frozen at the latch, at the actuator, at the weather strip, and at the handle pivot. Nobody told you, so nobody looked, and the shop bill for a latch actuator runs $300 to $500 with the door panel off. A key snapped off in a cylinder is $150 before anybody drives anywhere. I spent 30 years in a 3-bay shop in a town that got real winters. There was a tube of graphite in the drawer and a can of dry lube next to it, and knowing which one went where was most of the job. By the end of this, you will know all 25 places a dry lubricant belongs, the 4 things you must never do, and exactly what to do in October so that no door on your car sticks in January. Number 16 is the one thing you must never spray in a lock, and half of you have a can of it in the garage right now. Number 9 is what actually gets a genuinely iced cylinder open in 2 minutes without breaking anything. And number 1 is free, takes 6 minutes in the fall, and it is the reason a man in that shop never once called a locksmith in 30 winters. These 25 tricks were never about a pencil. They were about a man who understood that a lock and a latch are machines, small ones, with moving parts that dry out and rust and freeze, and that nobody has ever once looked at them until the morning they refused. Let us count down the 25 lost graphite and dry lube tricks the trade would rather you never learned. Number 25. Powdered graphite in a padlock. This is where graphite has always belonged and still does. A gate lock, a shed lock, a trailer hitch lock, anything that lives outdoors and has never had oil in it. You puff a little powdered graphite into the keyway, work the key in and out a dozen times, and the pins move dry all winter with nothing in there for water to cling to. A shopman in 1968 did every padlock on the property in October. Graphite does not freeze because there is nothing in it to freeze. Number 24. The house deadbolt and the storm door. Same rule, same tube. A deadbolt that grinds in January is a dry deadbolt, not a failing one, and the storm door latch that will not catch is the same story. You puff the keyway, work the key, then wipe the blade clean so you're not carrying black on your hands all day. A garage man in 1968 sent customers home with the tube. It was not the lock giving out. It was a dry machine nobody had touched since it was installed. Number 23, the pencil on the key, and what it honestly does. You rub the pencil lead over both sides of the key blade until it goes gray, then work it in the lock. It puts a trace of graphite on the wear surfaces, and it will loosen a stiff, dry cylinder. But understand the limit. A pencil carries a fraction of what a puffer tube carries, and it reaches the front of the lock, not the back. It is the roadside version. The tube is the repair. Number 22. Graphite on the small dry slides, seat rails, a sliding rear window channel, a tailgate cable pulley, anywhere metal drags on metal out in the weather and grease would only collect grit. You puff or brush it on dry and work the part through its travel. A station man in 1968 did seat tracks on the trucks that lived in the field. It was not a worn track, it was a dry one, holding every piece of dust that ever blew through the cab. Number 21. The old car cylinder that is clean and dry. On a car built before the middle 1990s, the door and ignition cylinders were often dry from the factory, and graphite is exactly right for them. You puff the keyway, work the key 20 times, and a lock that fought you turns with one finger. A mechanic in 1968 did all 4 doors and the trunk in 5 minutes. Older locks were built to run dry. That is the whole reason the tube sat in the drawer. Number 20. The keyhole you do not know you have. Most cars with push-button start still have a mechanical key folded inside the fob and a keyhole hidden under a plastic cap on the driver's door handle. You pry the cap with the key itself. Find both this week in daylight, because a fob battery weakens below freezing, and the morning you need, this is not the morning to learn it. A cold fob is not a dead car. It is a driver who never read the page. Number 19. The fuel door and its release. The little hinge and the cable latch behind the fuel door sit in road spray all winter, and they seize with the tank at a quarter. You wipe the hinge and the catch, then hit them with a dry lubricant, not grease, because grease there holds salt. A station man in 1968 did it on every fill-up car in November. It was not a broken release. It was a hinge the size of a paperclip that nobody had ever looked at. Number 18. Cleaning before lubricating, which is where most of this goes wrong. Old grease, road grit, and whatever somebody sprayed in there last winter are already in that lock. Adding anything on top of that mess makes it worse. You flush the mechanism first with an electrical or brake clean type solvent, let it dry completely, and only then put the right lubricant in. A shopman in 1968 flushed first without being told. The lock was not too dry. It was full of the wrong thing. Here is something nobody is counting. The men who worked bays in towns where the thermometer sat below zero for a week at a time, who knew every point on a door that would freeze and had touched all of them by Thanksgiving, are nearly all gone. The youngest of them are past 80. They did not put this in a manual. They put it in their hands, over 30 years of standing in the cold with a tube and a rag. When they go, the graphite stays on the hardware store shelf, about $4 exactly where it always was, and the knowing goes into the ground. The chain ran bench to apprentice for 50 years, and then the bench is closed. If this is worth something to you, take 1 second right now and hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. That is the only reason a video like this ever reaches the next man who needs it. Number 17. The right lubricant for a modern automotive lock. The wafers in a modern door cylinder are tight, and they already have a film of factory grease on them, and dry graphite mixed into that grease turns into a black paste that binds. What belongs in there is a dry PTFE lock lubricant, a few dollars, made to carry into the keyway and flash off. A shopman in 1968 used what suited the lock in front of him. The old lock wanted powder. The new one wants the modern dry spray. Number 16. Never use penetrating oil as a lock lubricant. That famous can in your garage is a water-displacing penetrant and a solvent. It frees a lock for a week, then the light part evaporates and leaves a varnish that collects dust and holds every particle in the keyway. Locksmiths make a living on cylinders that were treated that way for 3 winters. It does loosen the lock today. That is exactly how it earns the right to ruin it. Number 15. Never put oil on top of graphite or graphite on top of oil. Either way, you get a gray paste with the consistency of pencil shavings in butter, and it packs into the bottom of the wafer channels where no amount of spraying reaches it. Pick one system and clean out the other first. A shopman in 1968 knew which of his cars had which. Neither one was the wrong lubricant. Together, they were a wrong lubricant. Number 14. Never blow graphite near electrical contacts. Graphite is conductive. That is why it belongs nowhere near a fuse box, a connector, a switch, a window motor plug, or the contacts inside a door where wiring passes through. A puff carries farther than you think, and a bridged contact is a fault that will take a shop days to chase. A garage man in 1968 kept the tube pointed down and away. It is a lubricant in a keyway. It is a short circuit anywhere else. Number 13. The latch inside the door, which is what actually fails. The lock cylinder only moves a rod. The latch is the jaw that grips the striker on the doorpost, and when its springs and pawls get dry and rusty, the door will not open no matter what the key does. You find the opening in the door jamb, work white lithium grease into the moving jaw, and open and shut the door 20 times. It was not the lock, it was the jaw behind it. Number 12. the rods and clips between them. Between the handle, the cylinder, and the latch run steel rods and plastic clips, and those clips dry out, bind, and sometimes pop off entirely, which is exactly what a soft click and no movement means. You reach what you can from the jamb and the handle opening and lubricate the pivots. A mechanic in 1968 checked the linkage before he condemned anything. The handle was not broken. It was pulling on a rod that had stopped sliding. Number 11. The outside handle pivot. Every handle turns on a pin with a spring behind it, out in the weather, unprotected, and when that pin rusts, the handle either flops or refuses to come back. You work dry lubricant into the pivot from behind the handle and cycle it 20 times. A station man in 1968 did all 4 handles in October. A cracked handle is $200 painted. The pin under it costs a squirt and 30 seconds. Number 10. The weather strip, which is the real reason your door will not open in January. That rubber seal gets wet, freezes to the paint, and glues the door shut, and then the man pulls harder and tears the strip or breaks the handle. You clean the strip and wipe silicone paste or a silicone spray along it in the fall. Water beads off and ice does not bond. A shopman in 1968 dressed every seal he saw. It was not the door. It was rubber welded to paint by a night of freezing rain. There's a reason nobody hands you a $4 tube anymore. Price out what these failures cost now. A key snapped off in a cylinder is a locksmith call, $150 to $250 before anything is repaired. A door lock actuator is a $300 to $500 job because the panel has to come off to reach a part the size of your fist. A cracked exterior handle is $200 to $400 painted to match. A replacement fob programmed at a dealer runs $250 to $500. Now walk the aisle and look at what is offered instead. A de-icer for the glass, a $12 spray for the door, a lock lube, a silicone, a lithium, each in its own can. All of it is downstream of 6 pivots nobody lubricated in October. The craft was not lost, it was made unprofitable, and then it was allowed to die. Do me one favor before we get to the top 9. Hit like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so the next one finds you. That is the entire price of this. Number 9. The cylinder that is genuinely full of ice. This is the one the title is really about, and it is not a lubrication problem. It is water that got in and froze. You warm the key in your hands for a few seconds and slide it in slowly, or better, put a little isopropyl alcohol or a proper lock de-icer on the blade and give it a minute. Alcohol melts ice and evaporates clean, never boiling water on cold glass or paint. Heat the key, not the car. Number 8. The door that is frozen shut at the seal. You push on the door first, in toward the car, all around the frame, and break the ice bond before you ever pull. Then try another door, because one of them is usually free, and you can reach across and open the frozen one from the inside, where the seal has already cracked loose. A man in 1968 pushed before he pulled. Pulling a frozen door tears the weather strip. Pushing it costs nothing at all. Number 7. Never force a key or a handle in the cold. A key blade will twist and snap flush inside the cylinder, and then the repair starts with extraction. A frozen handle will crack at the pivot or pull the rod off its clip inside the door. If it does not move with normal effort, stop and warm it. A garage man in 1968 taught that before he taught anything else. Force does not open a frozen mechanism. It only decides which part you are buying. Number 6. The trunk, the tailgate, and the hatch. Nobody thinks about these until the morning they are carrying something, and the latch and striker sit where every bit of road spray lands. You lubricate the latch jaw and the striker, and on a hatch, you do the gas struts ball joints too. A station man in 1968 did the trunk on every car he serviced. A stuck tailgate is not a bad latch. It is the one latch nobody ever touches. Number 5. The hood latch, and this one is safety. A hood latch has a primary catch and a safety catch, and if that mechanism rusts and binds, 2 things happen. You cannot open the hood when you need to, and worse, the latch may not fully engage. A hood coming up at speed takes the windshield with it. You clean and lubricate both catches and the release cable end every fall. A mechanic in 1968 checked it on every car. It is not a convenience. It is the thing between you and a blind windshield at 60. Number 4. The parking brake in freezing weather. On a car with rear drum brakes or a cable-operated parking brake, water in the cable and shoes freezes the brake on, and then the cable stretches or a shoe tears loose when it is forced. If you park outside in freezing wet weather, leave it in park or in gear, chalk a wheel on a slope, and skip the parking brake. A northern mechanic in 1968 told every customer this in November. The brake did not fail. It froze on, and then somebody drove anyway. Number 3. Knowing the 6 places a door actually freezes. You do not treat everything. You treat the lock cylinder, the latch jaw and its striker, the linkage rods and clips, the outside handle pivot, the door hinges and the check strap, and the weather strip all the way around. That is the map, and it covers nearly everything that ever refuses to open on a cold morning. A shopman in 1968 could touch all 6 on a car in 10 minutes. It is not random. Every door in the country freezes in the same 6 places. Number 2. The October pass with a tube and a rag. Once a year, before the first hard night, you go around the car and do those 6 places on every door, plus the trunk, the hood, and the fuel door. It takes 20 minutes and costs under $15 in materials for years of use. It is not a repair. It is a standing appointment with the machine. A garage man in 1968 told his customers those minutes were worth more than anything his own hands could do in January. Number 1. Turning every key and working every door before the cold comes. That is all. 6 minutes on a mild afternoon. You open and close every door, front and back, work every handle from outside and in, turn the key in the cylinder, pop the trunk, pop the hood, open the fuel door. Anything that feels stiff in October is the thing that will not move at all in January, and it tells you now, while it is 60 degrees and you are standing in your own driveway. Your grandfather did this without calling it anything. He called it going around the car. Number 1 is not a trick. It is the look that makes the other 24 worth knowing. If this was worth your time, hit like, subscribe, and turn on that bell right now. It cost you nothing, and it is the whole reason I get to keep making these. None of this needed a certification, a scan tool, or a subscription to anything. It needed a $4 tube, a can of dry lube, a rag, and a man who understood that a door lock is a machine with moving parts, and no machine on earth runs forever untouched. That was the default setting in every bay in America. Not confidence handed down from a classroom. Confidence built from having opened enough frozen doors to know they all freeze in the same places. We did not lose the graphite. It is on the hardware store shelf, about $4, exactly where it always was. We lost the hands that knew which lock wanted powder and which wanted the modern spray, and the old man who worked every door on your car in October and said, "There, that is all it ever needed." So tell me down in the comments what you are driving, what winter does where you live, and which one it is on your car. The key that will not turn, the door that will not open, or the fob that quits below freezing. I read every one of these. He is gone now, and most of what he knew went with him. But not all of it, because some of it is in this video, written down at last. So this weekend, while it is still warm out there, go around your car and work every lock and every latch, and find the stiff one now instead of in January. Next time I will show you the old cooling system service that saved more engines than any rebuild ever did, done with 2 buckets and a hose. The craft is not dead. It is $4 and a willing hand away.